This has not loaded yet, but your article continues below. Former 67's player Lance Galbraith at 42 Errol McGihon / POSTMEDIA Network. Article content from the moment Lance Galbraith hit the ice at the old Civic Centre in the fall of 1996 until his graduation in the spring of 2001. No one player was hated any more in Ontario arenas than the Ottawa 67's undersized heavyweight. Story continues below. This has not loaded yet, but your article continues below. Article content: we apologize, but this video has failed to load. Tap here to see other videos from our team. Try refreshing your browser, or former 67's player Lance Galbraith at 42. Back to video. Galbraith, who passed away Friday, had such a way about him he even drew the ire of wrestler Bret Hart at the 1998-99 Memorial Cup in Ottawa. And it wasn't a staged wrestling moment. Galbraith took out Brad Stewart, the best player on the Calgary Hitmen, with a hit in a preliminary round game. In the championship game, the 67's beat the Hitmen 7-6 in overtime with Stewart in the stands injured. Hart, who was part of the Calgary ownership group, went ballistic with comments about Galbraith in Calgary newspapers, though Hart eventually wrote a letter of apology to Galbraith. It was the one and only time someone in Ottawa got mad at Galbraith, because in normal times back home on Bank Street, Galbraith might have been the most beloved and popular player with the fans in 67's history over his amazing 5-year run. Story continues below. This has not loaded yet, but your article continues below. Article content: for those 5 seasons, Galbraith was the 67's heart and soul, and then some. He approached larger-than-life status as a 67, some of it not so good though mostly good. Galbraith, 42, early Friday morning in a single-vehicle crash on a rural road in Niagara-on-the-Lake, just 200 meters from the lane to the property he lived on, a property belonging to former 67 and best friend Zenon Konopka, his wife and 4 children. Konopka heard his doorbell ring at 2 a.m. Friday. He opened the door to discover a Niagara Regional Police officer. Galbraith's pickup truck had hit a culvert and he on the scene. Galbraith and Konopka became inseparable as 67's. 25 years later, Galbraith was Uncle Lance to Konopka's 3-year-old daughter Shyloh and sons, 4-year-old Hunter, 5-year-old Zenon Jr, and 9-year-old Christian. Story continues below. This has not loaded yet, but your article continues below. Article content: that's what they always called him. Uncle Lance, said Konopka, fighting tears on the phone. He bought them video games. He bought them candies. He just spoiled them. He was in and out of the house all the time. He was a big part of our family. This is like a nightmare. Only you know you're not waking up from it. It's the biggest shock ever for me. That's the only way to explain it. Konopka never backed down from a challenge in his life. Yet, he still hasn't found the will and the way to explain to his kids Uncle Lance is gone. Words will not come easy. Konopka's youngest boy Hunter suffers from cerebral palsy and wears braces. Uncle Lance would often walk down the lane to meet the school bus in the afternoon, and he'd throw up on his shoulders and carry him up to the house, said Konopka, who last saw Galbraith about 8 o'clock Thursday night. This is just devastating for our family. And we were his family. Story continues below. This has not loaded yet, but your article continues below. Article content: as the 67's career leader in penalty minutes with 960, there were nights at the old Civic Centre, or any rink in Ontario for that matter, where Galbraith spent as much time in the box as he did on the 67's bench. In 5 seasons, only once did he crack the 20-goal barrier, recording 25 as a 19-year-old. His best stretch might have been the 2000-01 playoffs, when he scored 13 goals and 28 points in 20 games as the 67's became unlikely old champions and advanced to the Memorial Cup. Still, in his 5 seasons, there were a total of 3 trips to the Ontario Hockey League final and 2 to the Memorial Cup, and never a dull moment. He was one of those guys everybody wanted, said former 67's owner Jeff Hunt. Everybody wanted a Lance Galbraith, and not too many teams ever get to find one. Story continues below. This has not loaded yet, but your article continues below. Article content: he was the most hated player in the league, and no one on our team wanted anything but to have him on their side. He might have been one of the most successful 67's in history for what he did for the franchise. He would give you the shirt off his back or his final dollar. I think he might have been the most popular, certainly in my 22-year association. Galbraith finished the 67's part of his hockey career as the franchise leader for games played at 297, and not once did he ever take a shift off. Lance came to the rink every day at 5 ready to play, said former head coach Brian Kilrea. And when the game was over, he was still ready to go. I think he could have played 2 games. And it took him another 5 hours to wind down. 7 story continues below. This has not loaded yet, but your article continues below. Article content: now Lance had different hours when he got his rest. I just didn't know when he got it. Galbraith was a bit of a free spirit where time meant little to him, even if it was at curfew the night before a game. One Thursday afternoon, Kilrea warned the players he would be doing phone checks that night, and when he did, Galbraith was nowhere to be found. That meant he had to sit the next night, a home game. Minus their spark plug, the 67's lost with Galbraith high up on Section 12, and when Kilrea went to go into the dressing room afterwards to address the team, he was stopped at the door by Captain David Bell. Asked why Lance didn't play, and I said because he missed curfew, said Kilrea. So David says, but coach, we're a better team with him, and I couldn't help but agree. 8 story continues below. This has not loaded yet, but your article continues below. Article content: so I stopped calling Lance every night because I wanted him in the lineup. Kilrea said Galbraith made it a point to learn some of the 67's history, and its stars such as Dennis Potvin, Bobby Smith, Doug Wilson, Jimmy Fox and Ivan Jolie. He certainly wasn't as talented as those former stars, said Kilrea. But he became just as popular as them over time. Every game, you got everything he had. He hit more glass and more boards finishing his checks than anybody we ever had. He was like Indian rubber tough. Kilrea said Galbraith became so popular, fans wanted his number 71 up on the south wall with the numbers 7, 14, 15, and 44, the only 4 retired 67's numbers. Even going back to that day in May of 1996, when the 67's drafted the rambunctious right winger from the Toronto Young Nationals Bantams, Galbraith made an immediate impact on the organization with a couple of dandy stories. 9 story continues below. This has not loaded yet, but your article continues below. Article content: for starters, the Brampton-born Galbraith showed up at the draft merely to support his teammates, never thinking his name might be called, and his dress code was more suitable for a day at the beach than being in the spotlight. So when the 67's called his name with the 49th overall pick, Galbraith didn't dare walk down to the 67's table to meet the brass. Instead, he ran out of Maple Leaf Gardens and went home to change into a suit, then went right back to the gardens to finally meet Kilrea and the gang. At that point, the 67's handed him the 167's jersey they had for a photo. Only Galbraith took off wearing the jersey, and someone from the 67's had to track him down to get the jersey back for the subsequent picks. Lance was a bad boy on and off the ice, said POSTMEDIA's Don Brennan, who covered all 5 of his seasons as a 67. And it was impossible not to love him. Share this article in your social network. Latest national stories: 1 story continues below. This has not loaded yet, but your article continues below. The Ottawa Sun headline news: to receive daily headline news from the Ottawa Sun, a division of POSTMEDIA Network Incorporated email address. There was an error. Please provide a valid email address. By clicking on the button you consent to receive the above from POSTMEDIA Network Incorporated. You may unsubscribe anytime by clicking on the unsubscribe link at the bottom of our emails. POSTMEDIA Network Incorporated, 365 Bloor Street East, Toronto, Ontario, M4W3L44163832300 signing up. A welcome email is on its way. If you don't see it, please check your junk folder. The next issue of the Ottawa Sun headline news will soon be in your inbox. We encountered an issue signing you up. Please try again.